Let's call the January meeting to order, please. And if we please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. And we are very thankful for what we have been through here with the personnel in our town that helped all the citizens survive this hurricane. But also keep in mind those folks out in California. What a disaster. Please be seated. All right. I'm going to ask Wesley if he will show a short film, and then I'll make a comment afterwards. I was phoned by News Nation, and they went ahead and asked me to be on this program, of which I did. And I think it will speak for itself as to how unfortunately I was ambushed.
From Black Mountain, North Carolina. Gentlemen, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Bill, there was just a tweet that got put out by FEMA helpfully talking about how great they've been and how many people they are helping. As you've been on the ground with folks, do you see that FEMA has been doing enough?
I haven't seen FEMA do anything since I've been down there. I've seen their vehicles. I've seen their flags flying. The amount of families that I've been in contact with, working with, I have not seen FEMA anywhere.
Tell me some of the stories of the families that have affected you the most.
Well, I can go forever. One family, she grew up in this home. Her great-grandfather built it. It flooded, kind of knocked it off the foundation a little bit. But they basically lost everything in their 70s. She has stage 4 cancer. They take care of their Shriner grandson. He is a 40-year vet. And they have nothing. And they were given a little bit of FEMA money, but it's not even going to pay for the cleanup. There was a guy that was helping me unload my trailer a couple weeks ago down in Jefferson, North Carolina. He was working at a distribution center, and he had cancer. And he was helping me unload the trailer, lost his mobile home, taking care of his 7-year-old daughter. And I called him the other day, and his camper just burned down because he's trying to keep it warm. So I could go on for hours.
Yeah.
The people that I've talked to, the people that I've seen, the look in their eyes, the devastation that they're going through, this isn't the American way. And I finally had to start doing something. I had to start using my platform, my Facebook, my social media, like all the other people are down there, because nobody else is helping. So we're going to do it the way we're doing it, raising money and make this happen.
And that's the American way, right? The worst times bring out the best sometimes, oftentimes in America. Mayor, I know it's difficult as a local official to be caught between wanting help from your community from FEMA and then trying to help the folks who are so desperate that you represent. Help us understand this giant disconnect between what we hear that FEMA is doing a great job and they're everywhere and on, and these stories that are being told and we have every reason to believe are true.
Well, I have to challenge St. Pierre. There's no question that FEMA has not done as much as what people want. However, FEMA is not Jesus Christ. We can't expect miracles overnight. I know that in the town of Black Mountain, FEMA has done a damn good job. They have given people, they have helped people. Have they completely made everyone whole? Absolutely not.
But there's people living in
You've
tents,
got to
Mayor.
understand
That's
that it takes a while to do this.
67 days and people are still living in tents. We have video of the FEMA compound. They seem to be doing pretty well. I can't figure. I'm just trying to figure out what people should expect, and it doesn't seem 67 days is too long to expect a trailer that the government has money for, is it?
Well, you said that they should be able to buy 20,000 trailers. I own trailer parks. I know what trailers are like. Do you realize how long it would take to get 20,000 trailers?
It would take a while.
There's
That's
not
fair.
20,000 trailers out there. Now, that would be a good thing. There's no question it would be good. It'd be good for them to bring them in. But for right now, they don't have the resource. They've got the resources, the money to buy them. But the trailers are not available. People are living in tents. Yes, they are. And I'm sorry. But you know, let's look at the other side of it. Our community has stepped out and helped so many people. There are churches around in here.
That's what's incredible, right? Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider.
Thank you. They went ahead and cut that short. Needless to say, they did not want me in there talking. So I'm going to read one little thing and then we'll proceed on. A few days ago, I was asked by News Nation to be interviewed about the ongoing recovery efforts in Black Mountain. I stand by every statement I spoke in that interview, if you call it that. They asked me plenty of questions before they went live and never once discussed FEMA, any level of negativity, or even that piece, the title of the North Carolina Left Behind. The thing goes live and I'm expected a platform to thank those who have helped Black Mountain, and instead in the middle of a FEMA smear piece. I was caught off guard and frustrated to hear anyone say that FEMA's done nothing in our town. I was elected to represent. FEMA includes not only the people we've seen in the vest around, but every bit of the support personnel who left their families to come to help our town. Every solitary person who has set foot in Black Mountain in an effort to help should be thanked, regardless of who they are. And that's what I wish I would have been able to speak to thank anyone who has done anything to help those around us after this disaster. Volunteers from those right here in our town to across the county, the government personnel from a federal level, our fire department, our police department, our public works, and neighbors helping neighbors. Some have stepped up in huge ways, others in smaller, but everything was helped to get us to where we are, and we continue to need that help as we build back. I just wanted you to know that I'm damn proud of this town. Mayor's statement. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the council, all council members have a duty to conduct the affairs of the governing body in an open and public manner, free of conflicts of interest. Is there any item on the agenda that the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any council members, his or her family, or close business associates?
No.
Does any council member have a financial interest in any contract coming before the council today?
No.
There being none, all council members have a duty and an obligation to vote. Josh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item 2A will be, I'm not going to read the entire title, but this is recognition of the Trees Committee, the committee is here with us. I know Liva has been leading the committee for a number of years, and I'd like for you to come up and say a few words for sure. And all the other committee members, please join her, or you all can't sit, but you can stand. But really, we wanted the committee to be here because this year for Deck the Trees, I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm going to let you say the number. But they have been doing this 14 years now, is that correct? And this year well exceeded any previous number, and I think anyone's expectations. So without further ado, I'll let Liva say a few words if that's okay with council.
I decided to take a little snow break yesterday and slide on the ice, so I'll be here only briefly. I would like the Deck the Trees committee to stand. Would all of you who are on the committee please stand? I would like to say it's just an amazing thing when you put out a call to your committee and you say, Could you come to a town council meeting because you'd like to be recognized? It's a Monday night, it's snowing, and this many people showed up. There are only 2 or 3 who are not here, but their being here tonight represents their dedication to Deck the Trees. We meet monthly, sometimes twice a month, and this year we had to totally recreate Deck the Trees because of the storm, because of just what you were saying, Mayor. The need in our community was so much greater. Kevin at SVCM, Kevin Bates, probably can give us the latest number, but I think it's in the neighborhood of $128,000 that was raised. This committee works so hard in everything they do. It is the most professional group of people who take a task and run with it. But we can't do it alone. Well, thank you. First, we thank the Monte Vista Hotel. Y'all, 14 years ago, you came up with this idea. And so this year we had 51 trees. We had 26 trees in the community, 26 trees at the Monte Vista, 25 trees at the community. And I believe at the last meeting, I said to all of you, you need to go see the trees. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands of who went. But if you didn't go, you missed something spectacular. They were the best that they've ever been. Sally Biggers, who's hiding away back in the back, had a tree this year. The town of Black Mountain had a tree this year. Are any of the girls in here members of the Girl Scouts? No? Well, the Girl Scouts raised the most money for the trees at the Monte Vista Hotel, and Black Mountain Family Eye Care raised the most money for the trees in the community. We're incredibly grateful. We are proud of the town, proud of the gifts of the town, proud of the committee, and I appreciate your wanting to recognize the committee again. I don't know that we can all stay for the meeting. We'll save room for the Owens baseball crowd, and y'all can come sit down. Would anybody on the committee like to say anything?
Do they understand it's for the fuel fund?
Thank you. The money raised, every cent of it, goes to the Fuel Fund of Swannanoa Valley Christian Ministry. Last year, the Fuel Fund was $158,000 they gave. This year, we raised all but about $30,000 of that $158,000. What that means is that then Swannanoa Valley Christian Ministry has more money to spend for the other needs of the ministry. So we are freeing that money for them. Anything else? Well, thank you all. Thank you all for having a tree, for coming to see the trees. I think Owens All Stars probably needs to have a tree next year there.
Thank you very much. We're very, very, very proud. It's just an example of building a better sense of community. All right, we're now at citizens' comment, and we have one person that has signed up. Tyler, I think it's Atkins. You will come forward. State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Tyler Atkins, 807 Laurel Avenue. I am here as a representative of Owen Babe Ruth. I'm the current treasurer for our baseball and softball league. This is my eldest son, Nolan. He's been in the league since he was 6 years old, which is about as early as you can start. We're here tonight. On the agenda is approving or voting on funding for the fencing at Veterans Park. We spoke about community here. We all know what's happened in our community. What we don't know is how we come back from that. We're still figuring it out. One thing I ask myself is, how can I make my community better? Part of that is being a good father to my children. Part of that is helping my wife, who is an educator at Black Mountain Elementary and Primary School, to have successful art classes there. The other part of that is being on the board with Owen Babe Ruth, being a coach, being a mentor, being a father, being a friend to other children. Through that, I got a phone call shortly after Hurricane Helen passed through. Said, hey, I've got some people here who have an opportunity to help you guys. From that point to here, Owen Babe Ruth's board has worked with multiple organizations through the professional leagues, the minor leagues, different community outreaches, different companies in our community, land grading, food service, all the above, to bring approximately $400,000 to $500,000 worth of in-kind and material donation to our community to rebuild the fields that we have now. What we're here asking for is to make sure that the town council remembers that benefit to our community and can hopefully reciprocate in that need in these tough times of decisions. We know that there's bridges that need to be rebuilt, there's housing needs, there's water needs, there's all kinds of concerns. What we're asking for is to continue the members of our community, continue the reason for our kids and children to want to live here, to grow up here, to come back here, investing in those memories and in those lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work that you do.
I have another comment to read that is in front of you, but they requested this be read out loud, I believe. Maybe you don't have it in front of you. I have it in front of me. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's there.
This is Mr. Doug Brock, 296 Old Lakey Gap Road, Black Mountain, North Carolina. Mayor and Town Council, our town of Black Mountain has no adequate newspaper reporting our town meetings or functions. The consequences of the lack of consistent reporting of public meetings are being seen nationwide, and our tiny town is no exception. When the town administration and leaders make mistakes, you can't expect them to report them to the people they serve. I encourage people to take advantage of the 3 minutes to call attention to their problems with a department or a town decision. It is also an opportunity to show appreciation for what the town government is doing right. Garbage Gate is an example of something that is not going right. Approximately 2 years ago, our town manager, me, advocated for the town to return to the garbage collecting business, claiming we would save $300,000 in the first year. That meant buying the expensive equipment and hiring the drivers and slingers. This decision surprised me, as very few North Carolina towns are managing garbage. The cost has just proven non-competitive compared to contracting the work to companies specializing in this work. Such large companies would have had replacement equipment on site immediately after Helene. The little garbage truck that serves the more minor town roads has been destroyed in the flood, along with an unknown amount of town equipment. I have a tenant who is served by this small truck, and she recently had surgery. When she inquired about the lack of garbage service, she was told she needed to take her garbage can a quarter mile down the road to Highway 9 so the big truck could pick it up. If we had a town newspaper, we might know how much equipment and expense the town manager's lack of action cost us. Had we subcontracted that out to one of the large waste management companies, we would have had replacement equipment immediately. Yet, without a reporter to inquire, investigate, and report the financial impacts, we do not know how expensive this option has been for the town. We also do not understand why town trucks and equipment were not moved out of the floodplain before Helene hit. When Frank Polk owned a Chevrolet dealership there, he always knew to drive cars out of the way even during little storms. What we do know is that our town manager decided to put us in the garbage business, and he decided not to move the equipment out of the floodplain. He had our town had a town newspaper reporting on town meetings, we might have had an educated and knowledgeable town manager before Helene hit. I will write about other mistakes our town has made. We can do better.
That was Doug Brock. All right.
Item 4A will be a presentation from IEM International on our preliminary damage inventory and recovery process from the hurricane. I will ask Jessica to introduce the two gentlemen we have here this evening.
Good evening. So you have heard us talking about getting started with our recovery process and we've executed contracts with IAM to help us in that process. They've been on site regularly. We meet once a week, and they're, Mike and Lily are getting to be good friends and familiar with Black Mountain. I think we might be recruited Mike as maybe our next resident. So they're here just to give you a brief overview of this process and timeline, so you can kind of know where our next steps will be moving forward.
Good evening to the council. I'm Mike Shovery. I'm my partner, Willie Washington, and yes, we are with IEM. We hired him to assist you with the large process of moving through a government grant process, particularly with FEMA and their PA program, in order to repair some of your public, or hopefully all of your damaged public equipment facilities, things like that. So, what you see on the screen right now is something we just call a dashboard. And that just kind of updates you on the basics of what we've been doing so far, the process steps that we're going through. This is the first one, so the numbers, I wouldn't necessarily focus too hard into those numbers. Those numbers are going to change as we move through this process, but just to give you a rough idea of the different categories of work and the cost behind those different categories of work. On the bottom of the screen, you can see the key project formulations of how a disaster moves through and what the steps are that actually happen. Presidential declaration, state coordinated applicant briefings, applicant submits request for public assistance, state FEMA approves request for public assistance, FEMA state conduct exploratory calls, FEMA state conduct recovery scoping meetings, and then we get into the identifying of damages. Okay, so we've actually moved through all those processes and working on the last one right now. We are ahead of the game, okay, and we're going to keep ourselves like that. But we are not rushing this, but we are taking our time to identify the different damages that have gone on in this town. Okay, we do have a timeline set up that I'll let Mr. Washington review real very quickly, and then we can just open up citizens' questions. I'll let you know.
Good evening. This is the timeline we have put out to submit all the documentation. I'm going to jump to 112 since that was on yesterday. I am on site through 117. I apologize for that. The next big deadline we have would be 2/10. We'll be meeting with the PMG from FEMA to discuss the final damage inventory. That means everything that was damaged that we're finding to get funding for will be into a big old packet and we'll submit it to FEMA. 212, we're going to submit it officially to FEMA. 213, FEMA will review it and tell us if we have any corrections that need to be done. 214 is the final deadline for that. Of course, we're going to get ahead of the deadline. The deadline is actually 217, but we're turning everything in a week before so we can be officially done with it. the 60-day deadline, you start creating RFQs, the engineering services, and arranging site inspections so we can get the actual estimates for the sites that need to be paid for to be rebuilt. 90-day, that's kind of going far ahead, but our big goals are between 210 and 214.
I have two questions for you.
Yes.
Number one, what is a PDMQ? And the other one is, what is an RFQ?
PDMG is the person that is the direct contact for FEMA.
He's the program delivery manager, and we apologize, there's going to be a lot of acronyms. In fact, actually, can you go back to the other slide, real quick? Okay, on the second page of this slide, there we go. We have some, not all, believe it or not all, but some of the acronyms that are used by the government to move this process forward. But PDMG is your, that's the person that FEMA has assigned to work with the town.
Okay.
Okay, so we in turn are going to work with him to go through projects, to set up the projects, to take the damages off the damage inventory that we're currently working on and put them into either individual projects, okay, or group them together into one project, depending on how they make sense, whether it's by cost or by location or by complexity or things like that. So that's, we're going to work with that first. Then we'll turn around and through that person set up site inspections, okay, and that's when FEMA comes out and starts inspecting the damage and actually taking a look at it. So.
Just go back to the timeline one more time.
Sure.
What is category B? What's category B?
Category B, category A and category B. Now, there are different categories of work. That's how FEMA creates the projects or identifies what the damages are. Category A and B are your emergency work projects. So that would be any kind of debris removal, or that would be any kind of emergency protective measures that you do. So such as opening up your EOC, sending your police and fire up for rescue services, any kind of temporary work you may have done, but anything you did to protect the town. Okay, that's your category B. Force count labor, things like that. The C through G projects are your permanent work projects. So those are like roads and bridges, buildings, equipment, water facilities, okay, parks. Parks are a big thing. Okay, so those damages will be put into these different categories. Okay, and then that's how FEMA views them, and that's how they're.
That's how funding is broken down.
Yes. So it doesn't matter, by the way. It doesn't matter what group they get into. The funding is all the same. So it doesn't matter. You know.
Thank you.
Can you go back to the other side? So that chart there of the. Oh wait, sorry. The other one. That's the Perfect, thank you. Those numbers there,
The category A numbers or the
all of them.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
So, is that including your full assessment of the damage, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, those again very preliminary. So like I said at the beginning, don't focus too much in on the number. Those numbers could go up or down. Right now, we're estimating.
That's a good estimate of how much and the amount of projects we'll have.
Okay, because that's actually quite a bit lower than.
Yes. Much better than we thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, right now, we're getting all the documentation together so we can actually get a specific number to submit to FEMA. But as of right now, as of today, over 2 months, this is where we're at right now.
Now, those numbers will particularly change once we get more estimates in and once work starts and things like that. We can actually get harder numbers to come in that will be going into those projects that are broken down into those different categories.
One thing we can't say, we don't expect the number to go up drastically or drop down drastically, but we do know it could fluctuate between $1 or $2 million. The number that might change the most would be the project application number, the 33. That could change because we could put 2 or 3 parks together and make one project. And right now it might be 2 or 3 projects separately. So we can put them all together to get one big bucket of funding instead of having multiple projects going out. So that number could change, but the dollar amount should be around the same thing. Give or take.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
$2 or $3 million.
yeah. we're still waiting on some other estimates to come in from some of the buildings and things like that.
Correct.
And then, of course, there's also some mitigation funds that we're waiting for too, that we need to take a look at. In order to harden some of these facilities and these roads and things like that, so we can protect against a future similar event. Because that is one of the things we do look at. It's not just a question of bringing back down to what it was. That's one thing. We want to bring it back better so that we can further sustain, so that we'll be able to sustain a future similar event, so.
Could you, I didn't really have a full understanding of how this process worked at all before the storm, and I'm certainly still learning now, and I'm sure there's some people here or watching that would appreciate a walkthrough of how this works. Is FEMA gonna give us $13 million, or am I understanding something? We do these projects.
There is not a magic button that all of a sudden, oh, guess what? Boom, press the button, and all of a sudden all the money comes in.
Right.
This is a long process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's gonna take a while. It could take up to a year at least. Okay, and I hate to put time frames on things because, like I said, it is a long process. We're just in the beginning stages of this. We've submitted, or going to be submitting our DI, our list of damages. Once that goes into FEMA looks at it, we work with FEMA to decide how many projects we're gonna have. Once we decide the projects and what was damaged, FEMA's gonna come out and do site inspections. Once we do the site inspections, now we're gonna start the formulation of the projects. Okay? That's when we put all the documentation in, all the cost estimates, the proof of payments, the time cards, 214, the contracts, things like that. All that documentation, okay? And it is document heavy, right? This is the government, it's very document heavy, okay? That's gonna go through, FEMA's gonna get that. Then they're gonna go through and they're gonna review it all, okay? Once they review it and they obligate it, then it has to go to the state, okay? And the state is actually the one that pays us, right? FEMA doesn't directly pay anybody from the state, the state pays us, okay? So, once that project gets obligated, it goes to the state. Now the state does their review. Okay? The state's the one, they're the ones that are on the hook for this. They're the ones that have to give the money out. So they want to make sure that everything is okay. So they're going to review it. Once they've reviewed it, we turn around and they say, okay, we reviewed it, we're obligating it, we're now approving it to be paid. Okay, fine? Then we come back and we approve something called RFR, another acronym, or request for reimbursement. Okay, and we start drawing down on the funds that have been obligated to those particular projects.
But the actual, to pay for the work to be done, we're paying that up front and being reimbursed for that.
FEMA's a reimbursement program.
Yes.
Correct.
So we have to find the $13 million.
Not technically, but you will find a lot of the money. You don't have to find $13 million. A lot of things, different projects, different processes will get you some money up front. We'll say you will put half down and they'll give you the other half until you complete it and they'll reimburse the first half. The main thing is a reimbursement process, but that's why we're here working with all the department heads to let them know how to get the money in, the workarounds.
Yeah. Some of your projects will be written on estimates. Some of your projects will have work to be completed. Yeah.
And a lot of work has already been completed so
Right.
far with the beginning emergency work. That's the biggest portion of it.
And how quickly does that reimbursement come in?
Again, this is going to be, you're looking at least a year. Would be my estimate.
Emergency works would be paid quicker because it was an emergency. But as for rebuilding buildings, roads, bridges, parks, it would be on the back end because that wasn't emergency. That's rebuilding, making better.
It's not going to be quick. Okay, like I said, I hate to put a time, frame on this, just because again, it has to go through all kinds of different reviews, and get developed everything through FEMA, then to the state, and then finally, the state requests the money to come back in. So it takes a while.
So buildings like our public works building, when can we, at what point in the phase should we actually begin the work on that building versus waiting for?
What do you mean the work?
Our public works building, as you know, was flooded out, it's been gutted down at this point. Rebuilding it, adding the offices back in, moving people back in there.
Well,
Can we begin that now, or is
the
that?
first thing you need to discuss is what do they want to do with the building. Right now, we're in the phase of trying to see if you want to rebuild the building or change the building. So that's the first step. You need to get estimates on that to see how much you need, so you have to get engineers in. So that's the process that kind of makes it take a while, because as of right now, Town of Black Mountain probably has, 5 engineers, and they're all busy. So you get pushed out, that's how things last. It's not FEMA per se that's slow. They are slow, I agree with you, but you have to do the front end first, which is slow, and then they come in. So
You can start rebuilding whenever you're ready to. Don't wait for FEMA to reimburse us. You can start working anytime you can. Once the site inspection's been completed, things come out, looked at it, we have pictures of the damage, we have pictures of what's got to be fixed, and you can start working immediately if you'd like. FEMA's not gonna not pay you because you started, because you fixed it. There are some projects that you do have to wait on, but for a building like you're talking about, you can start. But that's gonna get to you guys. And we're gonna be, specific things for specific building sites, damages, things like that, if there are any of these idiosyncrasies and stuff like that, because there is different rules for different disasters and things like that, disaster-specific guidance, they call it. That's why we're here. We're gonna help you guide you through that. For specific things, we can check with FEMA to make sure we're overstepping our bounds, or overstepping what we need to do to make sure we don't jeopardize any kind of funding. Because that's our number one thing, we don't want to jeopardize anything. So I can get you guys as much as we can here. So.
To answer your question clearly, you could have started a month ago if you had the funding.
What would be an example of a project that we have to wait on?
Something that you're going to replace altogether. Okay, if you want to come down and make sure and take a look at it and say, okay, you're telling us this damage to this building, road, whatever, is completely damaged. We want to come down and take a look at that and approve it and say, yeah, okay, you're right. Then you go back and talk to the state, okay, this has been approved by FEMA, you can down, take a look at it, and then they'll say, okay, yep, you're all right, we agree with you. And that'll get done. Then it goes, again, starts that process.
Okay.
It's really a process. So, we have gone ahead and filed what we call an expedited project for some form of your emergency work that you may be aware of. So that was released, and we are waiting for that to come in right now. And that's where they take a list of damages that we've submitted, and they cut loose some money right after that just to kind of help get things going. So that was good. So.
One particular area that I'm very concerned about, because it's a big part of our town, is our golf course. And so that we knew that the building, and it's listed up there as, the shed for all the equipment. But as far as going ahead and trying to get into other things like the bridges, and they're small bridges, these are not big bridges. So the golf carts could go ahead and then go around. And then also to a panel that at the lake for the irrigation system. So since this is a money-making project, off the opportunity that we have here, we've made money off of this golf course. Are we going to have to wait to get money for those things? Because if that's the case, that's going to push our opening date probably out, which means then we're revenue stream is going to be cut.
Sure. Yeah. We can, if there's projects that you'd like to prioritize, we can certainly do that. But that's not going to speed up the process. You're still going to have, it's going to go through the same process.
But we could also go through the same, as you were saying, we could have started building, we could have renovated the building a month ago. We could go out to the golf course now and renovate the bridges and get the panel for the irrigation system now.
Yes.
And then file that with FEMA.
If you have the money to do that, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But it's not, like I said, it's not going to get you the money any quicker, so it's still.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think this is part of your problem, it's our problem, it's the enormous cash flow issues that we've got, the ongoing operating expenses we already, as a county,
Right.
have
Yeah,
every day
right,
before
sure.
the storm.
Yeah.
And now figuring out priorities for keeping everything running.
Mhm.
So it's a big
It's-
conversation about the timing of all of it, yeah.
Right, and those are real serious concerns, as to what to prioritize and what do you want to get back. up and running first. And that's, obviously revenue for the town is important, because that's how the town, makes money, you can pay off some of these things. But also, what else is there that, that may take precedence over that, and sometimes they're tough decisions to be made. This isn't easy. I don't envy you, but we're here to help you. So, like I said, questions, concerns, or things that things we can do. Like I said, don't hesitate to let us know. So.
Just for the public's benefit, can you explain who you are, what your company, how you happen to be here today, and why we show, what you do in general for communities in our situation?
Sure. I am a company called Integrated Emergency Management, and what they do is it's a collection of subject matter experts and specialists that either have worked for FEMA or have been working in the PA/IA programs for a long period of time. And what we do is we come out and help communities who haven't gone through disasters like this, and would like help working through the process. It can be rather intimidating, particularly when it comes down to a lot of documentation, paperwork, and timelines and things like that. And sometimes, like I say, it can be very intimidating. So we're here to help you out. We work through that and to explain things, even if it's just what a PDMG is. But to help you through that whole thing and to make sure that what we get is right, and that we get as much funding back from you from this government program that we can. I myself, I've been working for, I started a while ago. I have a master's in emergency management. I've worked for FEMA. I've worked for some other consulting firms. Currently with IEM. I specialize in subject matter expert with the PA process and mitigation. So I usually work in the front of the house with putting things together, doing damage assessments, things like that. That's what I do.
And he works in the front of the house, I work on the back end. So I'm the person that submits for funding. I'm quality control. I'm the person that saves the town from FEMA saying, oh, we want our money back. Yeah. Thank you. I'm the number guy. I've been working in disaster recovery for about 11 years now. I used to work on Homeland Security. And just to understand, touch base and let y'all know I understand what you're going through. I'm from New Orleans. So one disaster brings another disaster. They come in twos and threes. So you always want to, rebuild and sustain so that way you'll be better for the future. So that's what we do. I get traveled around, I get shipped around a lot. My home is New Orleans, but I work in Virginia, I work in Florida. He works in Florida. It's just another stop on the trip on the bus right now.
Thank you both for being here.
You're welcome.
Our pleasure.
Thanks.
I do want to ask another. FEMA being a federally funded agency, do you hear anything that gives you concern about changes to FEMA's policy, changes to FEMA's funding, and how that might affect us as we're going through this process?
No.
Yeah, I actually are in a great position. We feel great, but I know you don't. But we feel great about where we are in a position. Like I said, we were ready to present today, actually. This was supposed to be our deadline, but they pushed it back. Nothing you have, nothing we haven't seen. We're just trying to figure out what's the best way to approach it and attack it. We've been working hand in hand with Jessica, Angela, Josh. We've been great. We have all the documentation. We've got vehicles from all the police, fire, the emergency people. We have no worries right now.
Yeah, the department has been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. They've done a great job of getting all the documentation we need. So yeah, no, you guys have been doing very, very well. So.
Thank you. Yeah, my concern is changes at the federal level that then we would be going on.
No, they've actually been on your side. They gave you more time to find. The original deadline was 1/14. They gave you another month, so they gave you 90 days instead of 60 days to get all your documentation together, which helps y'all because you might go and find some more damages hidden somewhere, So they actually helped you out. That's the only major change to that.
There hasn't been any votes in Congress or Senate or anything like that regarding cutting funding or anything like that, so don't worry about that. So.
I actually have a question. So it appears that y'all are assisting on the public side, which is awesome. On the private side, for private property owners that have been impacted by the storm, is there an organization like yourself that makes them available, your organization available to the private side to assist private parties in making application, trying to get through this with funding? Because again, you are the public side.
We do have, within our company, we do have an IA department, if you will, individual assistance. Yeah, so we do have that, if that's something that you require or need, then we can certainly put something together and make that available.
I was just wondering what resources there are, maybe you have it on your website for people just to link into and to research. Anybody's watching this can say, oh, I heard that you can look up X. I'm not sure everybody, I'm assuming a lot of people are trying to figure this out. I just didn't know if you had like go to X and that'll get you started from the private side.
Yeah, I think you'd be better to go just directly to FEMA's website, Individual Assistance FEMA website, and they have tutorials on how to walk people through signing up for what's called an SBA loan to get started, so to speak.
And those
I gotta say, IA is not my particular expertise. Right. So, like I said, we do have people we can bring in that is their expertise, but.
No, I understand. Yeah. Do those monies for the private side, do they compete with the public side, or are they two separate pots?
Two separate entities, I'm sorry.
That's good. Okay. Thank you.
So you folks will be back?
We will be back.
Yeah. When you do, if you would, make sure that the board members up here have copies of these.
Well, we're gonna make sure this goes on the town website so that everybody will have access to it, so everybody can see the process of what's going on.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, item 4B, library update. We unable for, I did reach out to Mr. Hyatt. He was unable to attend, but did send his regards. And I know Pam had put something together. You're welcome to speak, Councilmember King. I did send that out to everyone.
I don't know if the public has got a copy or not. Okay. So, because there are changes, I was not involved with any of this process, and I'm just compiling information because the public expressed concern over the changes in library staff or library hours. And since it impacts Black Mountain Library, we all heard about it, and I'm just delighted that people care about our libraries. I love the libraries, so since Jason Hyatt, who's the Buncombe County Library Director, couldn't be here tonight, I just compiled some information. There seemed to be some confusion and concern about how these decisions were made about changing the whole, there's 12 branches, and how they were modified. So this is nothing I was part of. It's just information I'm trying to convey so people have a better understanding of what happened and what's going to happen. But basically, the county has a hiring freeze because they have budget problems too related to Helene. Every department, and including the library department, has a hiring freeze except for first responders. So our library, all libraries, were tasked with making a plan to keep, to allocate limited resources, i.e. staff, with 13 openings, and they're not able to fill them. What's the most equitable way to do that? And I'm maybe none of you really are interested in this, but I just thought it was good to say out loud, because they came up with a system, and it's going to mean the staff we currently have is reallocated. So, for example, Black Mountain's library will be closed on Tuesdays. It's currently open on Tuesdays. But the good news is we're gonna be able to reopen the Swannanoa Library. And for a lot of folks, that's really a crucial thing right now. So I just wanted you to know that it's all up there, that their criteria were to provide, to keep all the youth and literacy programming at all 12 locations, maintain compliance with the state of North Carolina's minimum service levels for the system and across all locations. It was not arbitrary, it was not willy-nilly. They put a lot of thought into how to serve Buncombe County in the best way possible. And there's some of the factors they used. And so it's a temporary freeze. Hopefully, as the county works their way through their budget problems, like we all are, they'll start filling these positions again. We can get back to regular service hours. And Swannanoa will be open too. So, you know, it's really important that we have all our libraries up and running. Jason has agreed to attend at a future meeting. We don't have a date yet to answer any questions we might have, but it seemed like the public just didn't really have any way to know how these decisions had come down or how they've been made, and I wanted to share with you a little bit of the criteria that went into it. Sure.
All right, consent agenda is next. Before we get into consent agenda, it's not really a good place to ask this question in this whole packet, but I'd like to add an item to new business, which is 9F for a Duke Energy easement. I sent an email to y'all just saying I'd like to add that. I hope that's okay. They were under the assumption that I could just sign, but it actually needs to be approved by council, has to approve the easement. So 9F. Consent agenda this evening will consist of 4 items. The first one being item 5A, adoption of meeting minutes for September 9th, October 7th, October 18th, October 30th, and November 7th of the previous calendar year. 5B, a resolution to approve a MOU or a memorandum of understanding through the French Broad River Metropolitan Planning Organization for continuing cooperative and comprehensive planning. Item 5C, the monthly tax collector's report, and 5D, appointment of tax collector. And that would be your consent agenda for the evening.
One of the questions that you don't have the answer right now, but in the next month or two especially, if we could go ahead and come up with some ideas as to how much money that we're probably not going to be able to get because of loss of structures, and then also too, how much that the sales tax will be down. So if we could have that.
Absolutely. So for January here, I think Wednesday this week, we should get October's numbers, sales tax numbers. There's a 3-month lag, so that's really going to tell us. We're going to see a big hit, I think, in that one, of course. But yes, we'll put something together, not to include that, or not just that, but like rentals, just different things, golf course, even though it's slow this time of year, but still.
Are you thinking maybe like a brief financial update at our next regular session meeting, or?
Well, it wouldn't hurt because of the fact that we need to know also too about how much that we have in our cash flow. Because I think it may be something that the board may want to consider, that if in fact we can't get money from FEMA for a while and we're going to have to front end load it with ourselves, that we may go ahead and for just a period of time change the rule about how much percentage that we need to keep in fund balance for just a short period of time until we can go ahead to free up that money. Because if we can't get some things done because we don't have the cash.
More to come on that for sure. We've already started putting some stuff together, and that'll be a good conversation. Yes, okay. I agree 100%.
Good.
Oh, and remind me, we're on track to start our budget Our budget retreat is going to be in
So our budget
March, is
retreat's
that
gonna be a
what
little bit late this year, we're gonna do it in March. And I really kinda wanted, and the reason for that is I wanted to kinda wait on this, DI to get presented, the damage inventory. And now that we know it's quite a bit less than what we originally thought, that is encouraging, even though it is still a ton of money. But I think I wanted to get an idea of what we were looking at, because, it's gonna be a different budget year
Sure,
this year for
yeah.
sure than past years.
Well, I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right. Any discussion on it? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we'll,
Excuse me, Mayor, I don't know if this is appropriate or even possible at this point, this late in the game, but I'm wondering if we could move the public hearing to the end of the meeting to, since there are a lot of kids here that might want to get dinner and go to bed, who are waiting on new business. Is it possible to switch up the agenda at this point?
what,
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'll be amenable to that.
all right. So you want to put it, you want,
After new business.
excuse me?
Move the public hearing after new business.
Yeah. Okay. If that's agreeable with everybody, if it's not, let me know.
We might frustrate the people that are going to wait on the public hearing. But I think for the kids, that makes sense.
Okay, we have our next section of citizen comment. I didn't see, we don't have anything, do we, Leslie? Okay. So now we go to new business.
All right, I'm gonna let Mr. Josh Henderson come up and speak to you about the fencing for Veterans Park. You do have at your seat, I think, another quote. I think this was the last one we were waiting on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Take it away.
So as you've heard and as you are aware, we did have a major financial contribution of in-kind services back in November with the renovation of the fields that we had with the grass and the dirt, sod. And the next piece of that for Babe Ruth to be able to operate this spring and run their league is to have fencing. I reached out to 4 different companies. I got 3 quotes, which you have in front of you. Each quote was given the same set of specs, and so my ask of you tonight is to select a vendor so that we can move forward with getting fencing and they can have their baseball season.
I do have a brief question about the numbers, and I'm probably missing something, but in the packet, we got the second quote from Graybeard Fence is a different number than I see in the summary, and I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page about what the final quote was there.
So if you look at these quotes, they are for 4 fields. We have 4 fields down there.
I see,
At
okay.
this time, only 3 of those fields are operational, so
Thank
the
you.
numbers in the cover sheet are the totals for fields 2, 3, and 4.
That's what I missed, thanks.
Yeah.
And so okay, yeah, and then we have this additional one, the GNS.
So just to make sure I got it right, Asheville Fence on the cover sheet is $120,774.
That's correct.
Previously, we had $220,912 for them.
Oh, you're looking at that's what I was asking about, Pam, that's the Graybeard Fence. I think that's the
Yeah,
one I'm seeing.
don't look at the totals
But that's
on
for
the
4.
actual quotes, because I had them quote all 4 fields, so we have an idea of what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Because at some point, we are gonna have to fence that 4th field. So I gave them specs for all 4 fields and had them spec it out that way. So the totals are not accurate of what we're actually looking to do, because we're only looking to do fields 2, 3, and 4.
But we've got the numbers on the summary.
Right, the numbers on the cover sheet should be correct.
Thank you.
Plus now we have Grindstaff, correct?
That's correct, that came in this morning.
Which I think comes to 125.
625.
125, 625. For fields 2, 3, 4.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Say that out loud again.
The grind staff, the GNS, that total is 125, 625 for fields 2, 3, and 4.
So to recap, you feel these are comparable, and so it's good to just go with the lowest.
Right, like I said, I sent each of these vendors the same specs, so they each had the same information, and these were the quotes that I got back.
Do you have any ideas that one might be faster to get the job done, or?
I can't really speak to that. I can only say that in the past, I have only worked with Asheville Fence. They did the dugout fencing, and they've done a few other projects in town. These other two companies were just people that I reached out to, or contacts that I was given from people that live here or have got fencing work done in the past.
Was the time frame of spring play part of that conversation, or were they comfortable making an estimate on when they could come out?
Sure, yeah, they were informed that, Babe Ruth usually starts around late February, March. Again, I wasn't given any guarantees of time frames or work. As you know, everybody's in the same boat right now. But yeah, all I can say is I have worked with Asheville Fence in the past.
And this is for backstops, the foul lines, and also fencing in the outfield.
Correct. So if you look at the specs on any of these quotes, it kind of lays it out there. You've got 30-foot backstops. Then you've got the foul lines in the outfield. So each of those costs are listed there as a breakdown. Ground staff did not put their breakdown on their actual quote, so I included the email that I sent them that had the specs on there.
I know that as we were talking about earlier in the presentation, there's going to be a lot of hard decisions we have to make. We only have so many resources right now, and money will be slow to come in to reimburse for all of these. So, as I'm thinking about priorities, obviously there's public safety, there's sanitation, there are roads, but quality of life and supporting our children, our youth is high up there for me. There are a lot of parks in this county got wiped out. There are fewer and fewer places for kids to play and activities for them to get into. And if we can, we are 90% there with the fields, these 3 fields being rebuilt. If we can get this over the finish line and make this, in the grand scheme of things, small investment into helping them be able to play this spring, that seems like a huge win for me. I think it's 400-ish kids. They anticipate playing spring ball. That's a lot of families in the valley that will be positively impacted, and a lot of kids that we can support. So I'm certainly in favor of moving forward with.
Just a tag on that. So the 3 fields that have been, it's a miracle that all happened. Are they going to be operational soon, or where are we in that?
They will be. The fencing is the last piece that we need in order for them to operate.
I know there are additional expenses, the concession stands, the bathrooms and things like that, but my understanding is that the only thing we need to play this spring anyway is the fencing.
Correct. For them to actually practice and have games out there, they have to have a fence. We'll certainly look at porta johns and food trucks and that sort of thing for making up the rest of the missing pieces, but this is a major piece if they're going to have a season.
So I would move that we move forward with Asheville Fence to do the fencing for fields 2, 3, and 4, and then revisit for field 1 as soon as we are able to get that field more operational.
Before we do that, I'd also like to say that I concur with everything that Doug just said. To me, it's really, really important that our kids in this community have a place and a safe place to go and be kids. I know that it was important for me when I was that age to be able to go play ball, because that's where I got to make my friends and meet different new people. So I don't think any of that's changed. I think a huge part of a child's social life is right there in sports and athletics, among other things. So I definitely concur with what Doug just said.
Any other comments or any other discussion before we take a vote? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you, Josh.
If I could just say one thing, or a couple of things about that. You know, this organization spent day and night, dealing with this issue. They put in the time, they did a heck of a job. I got tired of talking to Don at some point in time, but it was all worth it. He called a lot, we had a lot of conversations, and it happened. I know this isn't the perfect Field of Dreams, but it's gonna get there. It's close, right? They got 3 fields done, and I'll tell you that I've had almost all the managers in this side of the state ask me how I got that done. And I said, well, I'm never gonna tell you how that happened. But that's it. Very good.
Well, I think it's a good moment to express gratitude again that for the immense generosity and for the time and effort and sweat that went into that. So looking forward to spring season.
Yeah, you guys worked hard. I appreciate it.
So Josh Henderson, you'll tell us when the first game is so we can all show up and cheer them on.
I know it's out of turn, but as a liaison to the town for the Owen Babe Ruth, I want to thank all the town, the employees for allowing us to come to them, work with them, have meetings, figure out how to get back to where we want to be, leading up to this point. There's a lot of work, like Josh Harold said, that happened up until now. Yeah. So thank you.
Again, it's a sense of community that is pulled together to get this done. All right, Josh, the Green Tea Grill.
Green Tea Grill lease renewal. This is pretty standard language. Not a whole lot of difference from the previous years. I do know that I mentioned this before. I believe it's even in this. Did we include that? I think we included her message that she wants to, of course, renew the lease. However, she does have some concern with the golf course not being open, and wants to, if at all possible, not have to deal with lease payment until that golf course opens back up. And I think from a staff standpoint, we are dead set on getting this course open this spring and getting it back going, and I really think that is a reality that can happen. But Karen has done a good job up there, I think, for us at the golf course. We don't have any issues. I don't see a reason why staff would recommend not to renew. So.
Well, we all want, it's a huge advantage to have that available when the golf course is up and running, correct? So we don't want to have to have a turnover in my mind that we want them to be successful. I'm wondering, for things that happen, like I noticed that the Greenway 5K will be out on that course. Can she maybe be part of that?
We are using the Green Tea Grill.
You're way ahead of me. Yeah, good. I'm just trying to think of ways to keep her in business, yes. That's good. Anybody could go over there and eat lunch, right?
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
We need to promote that more, because I bet a whole bunch of folks don't know that.
Good
breakfast. You
Oh,
get
yeah.
breakfast too.
Breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh my, it's way too close to my house. But I just, people may not be aware that they could go over there, so it'd be a good thing.
All right, do I hear a motion?
And just be aware, based on what Josh just did say, I think either as a second motion or as a subpart B to the first motion, you should address the waiving or the
Forgiving
of the rent until such time as the course is open. If you're willing to do that, I think that can be demonstrated simply by Josh giving notice that it is in fact open to start the rent payment, if that's something you want to do.
Yeah, I was curious kind of where that fits into, is that something we update in the lease or a?
No, I think that needs to be outside the lease as a second motion.
Okay.
So, do we have a first motion to accept what we have been presented? Any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Now, we need a second motion to address exactly what Curtis has said there about, she does not pay until the golf course is officially open.
I make a motion that the land be forgiven until the golf course is reopened.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, item 9C will be the North Carolina League of Municipalities, or the NCLM, as it's also known as, the 2025-26 biennium legislative goals and selection of voting delegate. Mr. Barker.
Thank you. Each of you have a sheet in front of you. It's the long sheet, or if you've already filled it out on your others. This is the list of the 16 goals that the league has set out from their board of directors. Each municipality is supposed to select 10 of those. And if you want to each select your 10, I'll tally them up and then report back which ones we have.
Thank you, Archie.
Josh may have some comments on, do you have any suggestions of
I think there's some really good ones on here. I mean, I think all of them are good, of course. Some of them are I think are very beneficial to us, like the first one. I think that's very important that we get some money to help us with this, our recovery efforts and our resiliency moving forward. There's a lot of good ones on here, though. Long-term funding streams for water and sewer, stormwater.
We've all voted. What's the next step?
I'm gonna tally them
Tally
up
them
and then
now?
I'll report back, yeah.
Okay.
Do that now or
Yeah, do that
do it at the very end.
You should have had the Jeopardy music playing. Yeah. Why don't you tell them what this information does for us in Raleigh?
Yeah, I was gonna say, for those watching or those in the audience, you can look at the 16 goals on the agenda packet. Every 2 years, they assemble these goals, and then it's put out. It's kind of a process of where they go around and try to get the goals together, and then the board, the League of Municipality Board, chooses these 16 goals, and then they're sent out to all of the members of the league, which the town is a paying member of the League of Municipalities, asking them to vote by a certain date, which is the end of this week. That's the other part of the motion. You'll need to delegate, you can delegate me to cast that vote on behalf of what the decision was here. And then that's our vote for the goals. And then once they
So
get
if you would go
everything,
ahead
they'll.
and tally these up, and
Yeah.
we'll do this resolution after we do the public hearing. All right, so
Okay, so.
parallel parking.
Yes, so, this is an item, as you look through your minutes, you probably got a good snapshot of kind of where that, I was like, I'm trying to remember where we were, and then I read those and knew exactly where we left that off. So, at this point in time, due to unforeseen circumstances, we have not installed the stop signs yet, but we will be. And, I think at that meeting, at least the last time this was talked about, it was pretty much, I think, mentioned or consensus that we would reach out to Norfolk Southern. Of course, we haven't done that at this time. Happy to do that, continue with that. But I did have some interest in having this back on the agenda, and is there any interest in talking about this again right now on this agenda?
So, the way I understand it, then, right now, we have parallel parking from Broadway to Richardson.
Yes.
And then there is perpendicular parking from on Sutton, from there down to the end of the road there.
Unmarked.
Unmarked.
Grass, yes.
Yeah.
Not designated technically, no.
Yeah. I've always wondered why we couldn't, there seemed to be enough room on the parallel parking, and this is the interest of trying to pick up spaces. Why we couldn't go ahead and try to put in perpendicular parking there as opposed to parallel parking.
So that's, either, if we're gonna do anything, we're gonna have to get railroad permission, right?
Right.
So either way, I'm happy to
Yeah, but I
do
mean,
that.
just look into that to see what Jamie would think about how much that would take. Because we may have to fill a little bit. Sutton Avenue is pretty wide right there. You know, the lanes, which are normally like 9 feet, I think those are like almost 12 feet there. So I'm thinking maybe, and if it didn't work out, great, but I'm just thinking here's a chance to maybe pick up 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces.
So we don't currently have permission for anybody to be parking there. It's on-
Well, we don't, no.
I mean, it's the Norfolk
It's
Southern.
Norfolk Southern's right away. That's
Yeah,
correct.
so that's the question right there about.
Curtis, what is this perspective easement? Prescriptive easement?
Apply for parking spaces.
So, you can't get prescription against the railroad.
Yeah. Yep, we need to reach out to the railroad. I mean,
So,
it's the first.
there are things that can be done, but at the end of the day, you just deal with your railroad contact, have a sort of a mutually understood license agreement with them, meaning work out a license agreement where they sort of approve what you want to do, and you all are on the same page, right? So move forward.
So we need to do this for all of Sutton, including that there in front of the bike shop, and then across the railroad tracks.
I think all that, we
Yeah,
already,
they got-
we already
we
have,
already
we
have-
pay Norfolk leases on some of that stuff.
So we do have that in writing.
We do,
By
absolutely.
in front of Henson's, correct?
That, and maybe, I think in front of the bike shop too and all that.
Yeah, we do.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
I know we have it in front of.
I just had never seen the paperwork on it.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't seem like it would be.
Well, I think what the mayor's saying is
Across
the
from the-
park, actually the public parking that's on Sutton in front of the bike shop is technically in railroad right away.
Right.
Too.
Yeah.
And railroad right of way is not a simple thing as 1 + 1. You know, you could do a title search and figure out the chicken and the egg about, you know, who came first and the grant that established their right of way. I'm just assuming based on Josh saying there's railroad right of way, that there's railroad right of way that is paramount to the town's interest. So, I say that with the reservation that I have not been asked to look at it. It's not a 1 + 1. But again, the easiest thing to do would just be to let them know and work it out.
But don't we have to decide what we want first to tell them?
Sure.
And that's the
Yeah.
question right
Yeah,
now.
I don't know if you're gonna reduce the travel width when you do that, and that becomes problematic. But anyway, you need to decide what you want, sure.
But basically, we're at a point where we need to have communication with the railroad for clarity, or we need to say, we can't park there, people cannot park there. Is that?
I think we need
Is that
some
where we're
clarity
at?
from the railroad about folks parking there, because I think the original reason this came up was safety concerns.
Right.
About I don't know that that's there anymore. Doesn't mean you can't come back tomorrow. But yes, I think that was the original issue, so. How
Just
about
as
I
every
reach out to
vote.
the railroad and get that conversation started?
But I think we
And
need
then
to
bring
know
y'all
for
back.
sure that we've got an agreement, past agreements,
Yes.
so that we can do that. You know,
Yes.
so that, might as well, while we're at it, let's just make sure the whole
Yep.
caboodle is legal with them.
Jessica, do you have some clarification?
Real quick.
Just because it's been a while.
Thank you.
We've already had a traffic engineer determine the type of parking in that area, but we have not reached out to Norfolk Southern. We do have good working relationship with Norfolk Southern's real estate office. And I assure you, if there is areas where we do not have a lease now, having this conversation will bring upon that conversation, so
Yes.
that will happen. But it is, you know, it's not town property, it's not town authorized parking, it is informal, people park over there, it's not, we don't enforce, it's not signed. But the people backing out into the travel lane is problematic, no matter what is happening across the street. It's just, there are multiple issues in that area. The stop sign is one of them, people backing into the travel lane is one of them, and then the unauthorized parking across the street is yet another one. Put them all together, and it's a bit of a nightmare. So you can solve bits of these, you know, one bite at a time. So we're happy to reach out to Norfolk Southern and the real estate office and start the conversation.
If we just know where we stand.
Yep. We did have that engineering study.
Thank you.
Yep.
That will be our report back. 9E, discussion on this one as well, and I provided you with something to take a look at. You can take it home, that's fine. Really, I've had some inquiries from, I guess I'll just say a handful of citizens over the past, I guess, number of months before Helene and then recently after Helene about specifically loud mufflers and engine braking. So what I provided to you is DOT's their stance on putting those types of signs in their right of way. And if the council would like to pursue that, I'm happy to do that. I just kind of need some direction on if that's something that this council would like to see done, then I can pursue that and get the pieces in place to make that happen. It's gonna require some work, like I would think a resolution or something like that. Hopefully they follow the sign.
Well, that was kind of my concern. Like, I'm all fine with doing it, but I have questions about enforcement of it.
Is the enforcement.
Yeah, the enforcement side is what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I know in the past, we've had issues with our noise ordinance, its enforceability. So, I mean, I have no problem with the sign, yeah. But I think it really does become problematic trying to actually make it applicable.
And you're right, that's kind of the whole
Yeah.
loud music, it takes
Yeah.
complaints from different people. I don't know how this stuff ends up in court. If it does it all.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not a 1+1.
That's right. It's definitely not.
So you're not dealing with private property per se, either you're dealing with the public way. And what state law would allow or not allow. State law didn't prohibit it. I think we'd have to look to see, can we impose a requirement greater than state law on the traveling of a motor vehicle that is licensed that meets state law standards?
I think the state's fine with it, I'll give you that packet.
So we do
You
this.
think the state's fine with that?
Yeah, I don't think they've got it right up about
Greg, you want to?
Well,
That's what we got.
I think
Well, I'm assuming the state's not paying if there's legal fees associated with trying to ticket somebody. Anyway,
We've
it's
done this
just,
before, like the sign in front of Midland on that no 18-wheelers could go up or big. And everybody knew when we put that sign up, nobody was gonna stand out there and enforce it
Right.
probably.
an 18-wheeler
Does it say
is more of
18-wheelers or
a
large trucks?
design capacity issue versus the vehicle itself. So, this is, I'm just becoming aware of this topic, so I would say that if you want to, there's no harm in doing a sign that says something, it's what does that mean? And do I authorize my personnel to cite people? Before that happens, I'd like to take a look at it.
It may be one of those things that people just put them up, because I know Old Fork's got them.
Yeah.
Woodford's got them.
Oh, yeah,
So
they
they just put
There's
them
a
up
lot
to
of things that happen
deter
that people are hoping.
Sure, the room for a deterrent.
Well, I mean, that's just why I brought it up, because I just wanted, I have no problem putting a sign up, but I just want to make the expectation clear that it may not be something that we can enforce.
Yeah, if someone's calling in a
Yeah.
complaint about
Yeah.
that, by the time I don't know that there's.
It's over. That truck has moved on,
I
barring
don't know
some
that
kind of catastrophe.
that's the best use of our staff. But I think you'd have to see the sign as a deterrent
Right.
in itself. And
Yeah.
I would like for us to continue to explore it a little bit further, because I do know that it's an issue for certain.
Sure.
So we just want to table it?
Yeah, let's let Craig take a look at it and
Yeah.
Is
Craig,
that
is
what
this
a
something
majority- Is that what a majority is directing me to do, which I'm more than happy to it? I see a statute here, which is, suddenly occurs. So if that's what you want to do, yeah, I'll do it. Have a
Okay.
report at the next
Everybody in
meeting.
agreement with that?
Follow up in February. Thanks.
Okay. So Curtis, if you'll do that and bring that back to us, please. All right, we're now at the public hearing.
Actually, if y'all are okay with me adding that Duke Energy easement,
Okay.
do that one real fast.
All right.
It should be pretty straightforward. It's on the back.
Where is that?
If you flip on the back, it's on Chapel Road. It's right there at,
Chapel Road.
right at the golf course. And her driveway, her name's escaping me. Driveway on the left, right there, at the cart path.
Betty Austin.
That is it. I wanted to say Betty Alexander, and I don't know why I wanted to say that, but, so that, in that location, they've had to move a pole. And as I said, I think they thought I could just sign off on it. I said, no, I can take that to council, so it's gonna take a little bit longer.
Okay, everybody in agreement with it? Do I have a motion?
Wait, what's the impact? What, help me.
Just-
Maybe I didn't get to see enough of this.
Just a new pole.
Okay.
Just a red line.
Power pole.
Great.
Pretty minimal.
I'd move to approve the easement as presented.
If it was moved further on up over near Homer's Chapel, that would be a problem because that's where people go sledding.
That's true.
We wouldn't want to go.
Then we'd have a different conversation. Especially in light of recent weather.
All right, I hear a motion.
Motion was made.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Now, public hearing.
All right.
This is for text amendments to Chapter 1, Section 1.2.3 definitions, Chapter 4, Section 4.7.11.4 uses, Section 4.7.14 table of uses, Chapter 5, Section 5.18, and Chapter 5, Section 5.7 to add definitions and standards for emergency temporary housing.
It sounds so fun when you lay it out like that.
Okay, I hear a motion to open up the public hearing to address these text amendments.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to this issue? Please sprint up to the phone, into the microphone. Not seeing anybody, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, this is for comments on the public hearing, yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Jessica?
Okay, so I want to simplify what could otherwise be a confusing conversation, having all those of them. So what I'm going to share with you is the recommendation from the planning board that does primarily two things. One, it expands the language in our existing ordinances for temporary emergency housing on your own property, which we already have. To also include natural disasters as opposed to personal fire, your basement flooding, those kinds of things. It extends the period from 6 months to a year and just kind of softens those kinds of things. The bigger part of it is allowing for temporary emergency housing resulting from a natural disaster on property other than your own that was lost. So I'm just going to use myself as an example. Say my house was fine, but I had a large backyard, plenty of room, and I wanted to host a site. This ordinance does not require me to do that, but I would like to do that. So I would be allowed to do that. The ordinance, there you see lots of underlining and new language, includes basic site design standards that are typical of other types of development. Setbacks, parking, utilities. It does note that any additional permits may be required, different types of building permits. That's been a bit of a moving target lately, so we just say whatever permits are necessary, you will get. If FEMA comes and says this is the unit, well, that unit will be fine. If the state says it has to have this electrical standard or affidavit in place of inspection, then that's what will happen. It allows up to 1 unit per site, and it does require a third-party participant. These site standards and participation from other organizations are what the county is doing, and we're trying to align with the county. So we have uniformity across the county and the municipalities within it, so we do not create inconsistencies where we have populations moving all at once and tax a particular area. It also just, it makes it easier for people's expectations moving around as they try to get settled. The purpose of a third-party organization, it helps to protect the person who has been displaced, gives them resources, but also protects the person who is volunteering their site. If I'm saying, yes, please come set up an authorized habitable structure in my, or vehicle, whatever it is, RV, whatever, in my backyard, and then I can't get you to leave, or it's not, there's not someone there to verify that you were displaced. This is part of a recovery effort. Instead, you just moved here from Colorado and you're looking for a cheap place to set up camp. These kind of moderations, this helps put some checks and balances and protects property owners and people who have been displaced. So that is new language. We've added some definitions. I do want to point out, because it has, people often ask this question about these tables for Chapter 4. That is relevant and specific only to the T&D district, which is Cheshire, because it is not included in our table of permitted uses like the other districts had its own section, so we have to edit that section separately than the regular table of permitted uses, but it is edited to the same effect.
Jessica, I didn't follow that. So T&D is not included in this table, and
It is included in the table.
It
The
is?
East Louisa Public, Civic, Shopfront, as opposed to the table of permitted uses that includes all the other districts. It has its own little section unto itself because it's unique. And so we have to edit it separately. And because it does not get captured in the table of permitted uses. And that's something else this ordinance handles is the unique timeframes associated with working with a federal agency. Prior to this, we thought the ordinance dealt with, my house burned down, I've got 6 months, I'm dealing with repair, I've got an RV in my backyard. This recognizes a reality that it can take a longer period of time to deal with housing assistance and rebuilding, relocating, and things like that. So we have 2 years and we can extend it up to a year. I also want to acknowledge that we've never been through this before. This is what we think will work now. We had lots of calls immediately following the storm with interest in this. We're not having any. We haven't had any in many, 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 many weeks. So I think this is helpful to have in place should we need to use it. But if we run into a situation where this is not the answer, we can come back to it. You know, it's only as valid as it is, as long as it's adopted in this form. So if we learn more, we have other situations, and we probably will. We're learning something new every day as we recover, but we can come back. But I think that this is a good start and brings some clarity on definitions, applicability, and some controls. We really want people to be able to be in the community. We want people to, it mirrors a density that we already allow, things like ADUs. I will note that it does allow that one additional unit on properties that have a duplex or multifamily. Planning board did not want to exclude those. And the only time that you see an allowance for having more than one unit per property is if FEMA is setting up, or another government entity is setting up a site with many units unto itself, that they've come in and, well, when FEMA comes and says this is what we're doing, we just say thank you and no ma'am and yes sir. And that's when we add some additional site standards when you have multiple units in one place, just like you would in a subdivision.
Of course, yeah.
I have a couple questions. So going back to your example, well, actually no, different example.
Okay.
So let's say I did have a fire, not an emergency, I had a personal fire, but I happen to have an RV out back. Does this impact my ability to then, like you said, live in an RV? And
No, that's already allowed. You've had a personal fire, you have an RV.
so the requirement of it being a third party, introducing the third party doesn't impact that?
No, that is only if my house is fine and I want to host a site.
Host it, someone else.
Yes, you
So-
are still allowed to, if you're on your own property, if you've got room, to have a unit on your property, which, you know, is more advantageous for individual recovery, that does not change.
But if you're my neighbor, I don't have room for my RV on my property, but I can't just park my RV on your property even if we agreed to it.
Not under this now,
Could I do that currently?
no.
Okay. And then for utilities, if, are we setting up separate, is it considered basically an ADU where you can tie into your electrical, or is it you have to have your own meter and everything? Same with water.
So it would have the same requirements. There, you'll see that there are some allowances to get that in place, which deals with the emergency nature of it. So it says that electrical service and potable water, those permanent utilities will be placed within 3 months. We don't expect Duke Power to show up the day your unit necessarily is placed to be able to get that taken care of. And that wastewater within 6 months. So you may be driving to a campsite or dealing with having something pumped out until that infrastructure can be placed, if necessary.
But even, you know, I mean, the nature of this is that it's temporary, right? So it's maybe 6 months, a year that I'm without my home.
Maybe up to 3 years.
Up to 3 years.
Mhm.
I mean, but let's say it is, let's say I'm on a 8-month timeline to rebuild my home, right? I would have to pay for sewage and water and electrical to be installed.
To connect, yeah.
To connect.
That's gonna be $10,000.
Yeah.
Is that what?
I have no idea.
Well, no, I mean, that's what the town charges. They charge $5,000 for a water connection, and then $5,000 MSD will charge for a sewer tap. I mean, if we're really looking to deal with emergency people, that's probably some handcuffs that you're putting on people.
I think the intention is, you know, of having potable water and wastewater facilities is public health and safety, that we don't have long-term use of, you know, water tanks and gray water, and not all units are equipped to handle those.
Well, gray water is a different issue from wastewater. And so, but that, there again, if we're really, to me, what all this is about is trying to help people out in an emergency. And having to pay 2 different fees of $5,000 a piece is certainly not something that people are gonna be equipped to do.
Well, that is a topic you can consider separate from this ordinance about waiving or reducing your schedules. You can adopt a schedule that deals with emergency housing as part of your budget. Very well.
I would like to explore that.
We're waiving all other development fees that might even fall into that category already, potentially, as utility. Different law.
But something else we could explore alongside
For
what we
sure.
have here.
Yeah, this deals with it on the ground.
Okay.
But that 3-month and 6-month timeline in E, parts 1 and 2, that's what the county adopted as well?
Yes. A lot of this language came straight from the county, except they're allowing 2 units per.
2 units per.
2 additional units per parcel. This allows 1.
2 okay. So, house is gone. You can have 2 units, you can have 3 units.
This is the offset. This is my backyard is available. This ordinance says I may host 1 additional unit.
Thank
The
you.
county's saying
Okay.
you may host 2. And that it was done not in relationship to a conversation about density, but that large families are sometimes put into 2 units by FEMA.
Sure, sure.
That's where that came from.
Yeah.
So why would we take that away?
We haven't had any demand that has come through, so we don't have evidence that that's necessary. Also, we have, the vast majority of our parcels are very, very small, and allowing 2 would be inconsistent with the allowable density that we already allow in our residential districts. For if this was like a 6-month period of time, maybe 2 would be more palatable, but when we're saying up to 3 years, that starts changing the character and fabric of residential districts in a way that our ordinance does not tolerate.
What happens after the, you're able to move back to your home, these temporary houses, some of them are not really all that temporary, right? I mean, they're, I guess they are, but, we're not talking about RVs all the time, sometimes they are.
They're mobile,
homes.
yeah, one way or the other.
And so, at what point do they have to be removed?
When occupancy is ceased, when that person is moved out. Because it is linked uniquely to that person's need.
And then what happens to the utilities that were hooked up? Do they just get capped off and?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of temporary, stub-out utilities for things like that. We have people who get those permits because they own an RV and they their cousins come and stay for 2 weeks every summer, or they just use it as a home office during COVID, lots of those plants. Yeah.
If, as you said, this is a starting point, if it doesn't work for us, we can change it. Like, let's say if there isn't, God forbid, there's another natural disaster tomorrow, and we realize quickly that this doesn't work for us, we're able to change it, and anybody who's pending, who's put in a request or something like that doesn't fit these current standards, if we changed it, they could.
Permit choice, yeah, they move forward and been under the new.
Okay.
So at some point, is the town ultimately responsible for, let's say they won't leave after the allotted time?
No, that's not an issue. That's property owner, private property. So if I have people in my backyard and they will not leave, that's my problem. But the hope is that by having third parties involved, that helps mitigate some of this. It is certainly not going to be a perfect solution, but I think that's the intent.
So this has been really helpful to me because as I was reading this, I was hearing that, FEMA or another entity would be coming in and it would be like large scale site. But as you talk about this, now I'm starting to picture, I've got space in my yard and so I didn't know this was a thing. So FEMA or another entity could bring a mobile unit to my property for my neighbor.
This is already something FEMA does.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so FEMA
Okay.
does land use agreements with
individuals.
at all scales.
Okay,
And they prefer to do it on a smaller, first and foremost, they would rather site temporary housing on your property.
Of
So
course.
you are in your community, your kids are at their school,
Yes.
all the things. Second best to that is to have an individual unit in your area, which can be in the backyard, and FEMA may pay you for that. These are all outside of us. But it also can be that, I've not been on the recipient end of a temporary home from FEMA so far. It's only in January though. So we have, what that process looks like, I'm not sure. But they look at individual locations and then they look at very large scale, whether it's Commerce Park where it's flat and there's infrastructure and they can just
of course
set things up.
Yeah.
So it happens at all matters of scale.
Thank you.
I think this larger, this handles the types of phone calls that we were getting and keeps us off the slippery slope of setting up campgrounds that just start operating as campgrounds, which is not something we want to do. So,
one of the questions.
Go ahead.
One of the questions, and I know we emailed a little bit back and forth about this ahead of time, but one of the questions that came up, and I did want to specify clarity. I didn't read anywhere in here a time period for those that are here helping to have these temporary units. Is that also the same time frame of the 1 year, maybe 3 years, for someone that's out of state but has all the skills and wants to be here?
This does
How
not
that-
address volunteers. This is
Okay.
individuals who have been displaced.
This being this
This
chapter.
ordinance. Yeah, this ordinance. We do not have ordinances that deal with emergency housing unless we set it up and then it's a government use and we can set up emergency, I'm thinking like COVID tents in our field hospitals. Like those sorts of emergency things under civic emergency use we can do, but like in the throes of an emergency, not long-term housing.
Okay, I don't know where I got sidelined here then, that I thought this was also about housing for people that are assisting with, maybe I'll find it, but maybe. Yeah, before we get into chapter 4, chapter 1, emergency housing, bullet point 2, assisting, for
you're right.
people assisting with disaster recovery efforts through unit of government agency.
You're right,
non-profit.
no, you're right, that's in that definition, my bad.
So are we striking that, or
No,
are we including?
I just forgot. It did not come up in discussion with planning board, we talked.
Okay.
It was the definition. Now, I missed a meeting, and you were at a meeting where the definitions were developed. But it didn't come up in conversation, the second meeting with this conversation.
Okay.
I don't have an issue with that.
But I want to understand as it reads, Judy comes up from Statesboro, because she knows all the things about disaster response, and.
It's still through that third party. You know, it is broad, a government agency, nonprofit, or company.
Okay, and
That's
so.
third party citing.
And so suddenly she's in emergency housing in Black Mountain, and that looks like what? Given how this is written.
How does it look?
Like
Yeah.
she could put her trailer in your backyard if you
Yes.
approve it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Not a public parking lot, but your backyard.
Yes, okay. But it would be all of the same requirements for the
Yes.
utilities, but we wouldn't have the same time frame required, because there's no, what is the time frame for that? When we get into chapter 5, we're talking about, documentation about how long it's needed to repair, blah, 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 blah. Well, Judy from government agency is not waiting on her house to be repaired, so what kind of time frame then would apply to her being in a temporary unit?
The declared federal, state, or local disaster.
Yeah, it can only occur during those
So
types
once
of
the,
events.
okay, so once the state of emergency is declared complete.
Right, even though I fully acknowledge we will be cleaning up the building for longer than that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Anybody else got any questions?
And if you'd like, next month, I could bring you, and I don't feel a sense of urgency to do it tonight because we are not getting these phone calls, but I could bring you next month language, or I could bring you language to consider amending the budget to waive certain fees associated with this type of housing.
I would like to.
Exactly.
Yes, and I would like that.
Yeah. Because like I say, right now, it would be $10,000. So, all right, do I hear a motion to adopt this resolution?
So this is an ordinance making a text change to the zoning, so there is a statement of consistency that is required by law to be adopted. So you can either do that in two separate motions or in the motion to adopt the ordinance to make sure you include a part about the statement of consistency.
Okay, if someone who will make the motion include that in there, we could just get by with one vote then.
All right, I'm gonna read it out loud, the paragraph here. I'm making a motion. I move that we approve the proposed text amendments to Chapter 1, Section 1.2-3 definite. Do I have to read all this?
Just do it.
Okay. Definitions, Chapter 4, Section 4.7.11.4 uses, gee whiz, Chapter 4, Section 4.7.14, Table of Permitted Uses, and Chapter 5, Section 5.18, and Chapter 5, Section 5.7, Manufactured Homes on Individual Lots, to add definitions and standards for emergency temporary housing as presented, and find that the proposed changes are consistent with state and county regulations, and find that these recommendations promote and protect the public's health, safety, and welfare are in good keeping with good zoning practice and consistent with our statement of consistency.
Well, that's basically, the statement of consistency was what you've just read.
Gotcha.
I think ultimately you're making the determination that it is consistent with your comprehensive plan. So it's all baked in. So you did fine. You don't need to add anything else. That motion was just.
Thank goodness.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Last, we got some tallies?
Yes.
If you would just, I think, maybe just, why don't you just read them out as a goal, like 1, 3, 5, just like that, because we don't need to know all of the verbiage.
Yeah, I'll read them out, and then if you're satisfied with that, just need a motion to approve the resolution, which that baked into that is to appoint me to cast this vote on your behalf. Goal number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, and 13 was the majority.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept, motion to ratify this resolution of these 10 goals that the council, and also to appoint Wesley as the voting member? So moved. Discussion? Not all in favor? Aye. Unanimous. We got it.
So I got two things to say. Having stared at this muffler issue, as the memo says, it's currently state law that you're supposed to have a muffler. Every vehicle is supposed to have a muffler. So right now, currently, it would be enforceable by law enforcement to enforce that. So this is in contemplation of you providing sort of extra notice to your community of such a requirement. It's discretionary. My only concern is, if you provide a sign in one neighborhood, but you don't provide it in another neighborhood, they're like, well, I didn't see a sign, I saw it over there. So it's a little troubling to just, and this actually says, the sign would say, we don't allow non-mufflered vehicles on this route, when actually it's a state law that you're supposed to have a muffler. So it's a little confusing what they're trying to invite you to do. So what I would suggest is that between now and the next meeting, you think about, one, do you really need the signage? A little more direct law enforcement to enforce this. If you think you need signage, you may be thinking about needing to put them at the gateways more so than individual roads. That gateways would be all inclusive of all your roads. And maybe that would be the nice happy compromise for not having enough signage. So it's just something to think about, but I am comfortable in saying that it looks like that you can enforce a muffler requirement.
Isn't this about air braking? I mean, which
Jake braking, this really has to do with tractor trailers and big dump trucks that are using that to decompress their engine.
Right.
That's where this Jake
On an
braking comes
incline.
from.
Slow down.
Right, on an incline, not just,
Well, no, they can do it.
No, anywhere?
Anywhere. It's just
Your
another
brakes
form
for
of
when
braking.
going downhill.
you typically hear
I'm
it.
an expert now because YouTube knows all about this. And she said it was a really important safety feature to have that capability.
It is.
But the muffling of it is optional. I guess sometimes they don't have a muffler on there. So we're just saying, or other communities have said, they don't disagree that this Jake braking is essential, but as a safety feature, but that it has to be a muffled engine braking.
So is the J braking, is there a muffler on the truck in
No.
question? Or-
Who's our expert? Yeah.
I would assume
So we have Jake brakes on the fire trucks. And basically, you know, the regular brakes on there are air brakes. If the pump brakes too much and you run out of air, you're not gonna have any brakes.
Yeah.
So the engine brake, it slows down the truck. So if you ever hear the fire truck when we pull up to the scene, or I don't know if anyone really pays attention, but when we're slowing down, you hear the sound. Yeah, that's on video now. And do it one more time. Yeah. So you're gonna have that deep rumbling sound whether you have a muffler on there or not. And like the mayor said, it's a compression in the motor. So, I mean, you're gonna have that sound. Now, I'm sure there's cases where people take the muffler off of their bigger trucks to have a much louder, robust sound. But I know with the tractor trailers, and the deputy chief here can attest to that, when it comes to DMV laws, when they go through those weigh stations, those guys look, those officers look for those features, and if they don't have one on there that's legal, they're busted.
Big old fine.
Well, I mean, I know that this came up the first time for me a couple of years ago when someone who lives off 9 was complaining about dump trucks coming from the settings down 9 using this braking technique, and it is quite loud. And if it's happening all day and right outside your home, I mean, I can understand the frustration. You know, when you could just use your regular air brakes, right?
Well, you could, but on that steep of a grade for that long, you're gonna run out of air before the compressor has enough time to build up the air pressure in those air tanks. So, and like I said, once you run out of air, it's just a bullet down the mountain, and there's no way to stop it.
They need to be geared lower. They need to be in a lower gear if they're gonna do
But when you're in
that.
a lower gear, you're still gonna have that muffled sound. So.
Well, I've learned a lot tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm still trying to synthesize.
Okay, what do we got now, John?
I'll make one comment. I want to say thank you to the town staff that was here over the weekend, doing snow removal and salting, and
Yes.
wasn't a whole lot of snow to remove, but it was nice to see it. I'm actually glad we didn't get a ton more,
Yeah,
but I thought they did a good job.
absolutely.
And I've got a letter to pass around to sign, but that's it for me.
Anything from the council?
Just two real quick things. I heard it said earlier in the meeting that we went to our own garbage pickup system 2 years ago. And that's not accurate. I'm not sure when it happened, but it was before I was on the council.
So it was fiscal year 2021.
Yeah, so just wanted to make sure the fact was factually accurate. And then, do you want to mention the floodplain regulations public info session? It's the 21st, 6 p.m. here.
Sure.
Just for the public's information.
Yes. We have had this workshop before, where we have Terry Fox who is a planner with public safety, come up and discuss floodplain development regulations and NFIP. We try to do this once a year so we can, new people in town, it takes time for things to catch on, to come and learn about all of the regulations that apply to floodplain properties. We are dealing with a lot of people now with floodplain permitting requirements that they've never heard of or dealt with, applicable to NFIP, which is federal subsidized flood insurance. And we have to have these ordinances in place and to be a participating community in order for people to get this type of insurance. And one of the things we are hoping to have in that conversation is to encourage more people to get this insurance. Only about 50 people in Black Mountain have NFIP insurance. So it's a good workshop, and we hope we'll have more people come out. It'll be the 21st here at 6. Thank you, Wesley. See you again.
And that, I trust, is on the website and
Yes,
the Facebook
yes.
and the things.
And I trust that everybody remembers that. The Martin Luther King prayer gathering will be held February 8th. They're not going around asking for money this year, but your donations will be greatly appreciated.
in order to have scholarship fund for our students.
And that'll be at the
It's going to be at the St. James Episcopal Church, February 8th.
At the Episcopal Church?
At St. James.
St. James, okay.
I did want to add a little bit about the garbage too, piggybacking off of Pam. At least the past two fiscal budget processes that I've been a part of, we have been able to demonstrate that we have saved the town money by having in-house garbage collection. So I believe that is paying off.
Josh, can you give us an update on I know we purchased a small compactor truck.
Mr. Jamie with the left, he is taking it, we got the title to it today. For whatever reason, they didn't give us the title when they brought it last week, which is, don't ask. It will be tagged tomorrow and on the street tomorrow, picking up trash.
Excellent. Excellent.
And are we letting those residents who've been moving their trash cans know?
Yep, we sure are, and we'll be doing some photo ops with the new little Pac-Man truck and putting it all over Facebook. Yes.
So it already has a name.
Anything else? I want to close with one positive note here, and this occurred during the hurricane. Some of you folks have already heard it. But anyway, my daughter, she had a tree fall on her house, and she got outside about 4 a.m. and heard this dog next door whining. She'd had a problem with this neighbor abusing the dog, but the dog was outside in the driving rain. She gets it, brings it inside, dries it off, makes a little bed for it, feeds it, and then goes to bed. And the next morning, the dog is not in the little bed, but the dog is up on the sofa because the dog is up there taking care of her 6 new puppies.
Oh, and they're all well.
They're all well and found homes. So,
Amazing.
all right, good enough. Meeting adjourned.